The coffee shop patio buzzed with early morning conversations, the hum of life mixing with the rich aroma of espresso and buttery pastries. Greg Williams, 60, sat at his usual spot, a picture of calm in a crisp white polo and khakis. His distinguished silver hair peeked beneath a bright red MAGA cap that sat proudly atop his head. With a steaming coffee in one hand and a neatly folded newspaper in the other, he looked like a retired professor enjoying his quiet morning. Enter Karen Lockhart, 38, the human embodiment of a dramatic entrance. She pulled up in her oversized SUV like she was claiming uncharted territory, her designer athleisure screaming, "I'm too busy for real pants." Latte in hand, she swept onto the patio, her eagle eyes scanning the space until they locked onto Greg's hat. Her expression twisted as though she'd just seen someone carving political slogans into a wedding cake. Her heels clacked like a ticking time bomb as she marched toward Greg. With all the grace of a train derailment, she jabbed a finger in the direction of his hat. "You really think you can wear that here?" she hissed, loud enough to turn heads and silence nearby chatter. Greg looked up slowly, folding his newspaper with precision. His calm gray eyes met her glare like a boulder meeting a tidal wave. "Good morning to you too, ma'am," he replied, his voice as steady as his hands. "Don't you patronize me," she snapped, her voice rising an octave. "That hat represents hate, and you know it." Greg sighed, setting his cup down as though this was just another Monday. "It's just a hat," he said, his tone even. "Maybe you should try focusing on your coffee instead of strangers." Karen's jaw dropped. The audacity! The patio fell silent, all eyes now glued to the unfolding drama. A few patrons discreetly angled their phones, recording like amateur filmmakers hoping for viral fame. Karen's face reddened like an overripe tomato. She reached into her oversized bag and yanked out a bright orange canister of pepper spray, waving it like a sheriff's badge. "Let's see you ignore this," she screeched, and without a second thought, sprayed Greg square in the face. Greg stumbled back, hands flying to his burning eyes. The patio erupted into chaos, people gasping, shouting, scrambling. Karen stood triumphant, holding her pepper spray aloft like a gladiator after battle, completely oblivious to the collective horror around her. Greg cried out, staggering backward as the fiery mist engulfed his eyes. His coffee cup hit the ground, its contents splattering like the first casualty of Karen's crusade. Clutching his face, Greg dropped to one knee, his breathing ragged and labored. Around him, the patio erupted into a symphony of gasps, scraping chairs, and whispered disbelief. Karen stood triumphant, the bright orange canister of pepper spray raised like a trophy. "You all saw it," she announced, her voice cutting through the chaos. "He provoked me. I had no choice." The crowd wasn't buying it. "Are you insane?" someone yelled. A young barista, armed with a water bottle and a heap of concern, dashed over and crouched beside Greg. "Sir, here, try this," she said, pouring water over his face in a frantic attempt to ease his pain. Karen, undeterred by the growing murmurs of disapproval, whipped out her phone with the speed of a gunslinger. "Call the police!" she barked, as if commanding an army. "He's a threat to public safety." "Threat? The guy was drinking coffee!" A man near the back shot back, his phone now aimed squarely at Karen. Around him, more phones appeared, their tiny lenses capturing every detail of the escalating scene. Just as Karen began her 911 call, the distant wail of sirens filled the air. A pair of squad cars screeched to a halt in front of the cafe, and two officers emerged, their expressions a mix of curiosity and exhaustion. "What's going on here?" the senior officer demanded, his gaze shifting between Greg, now partially upright with the barista's help, and Karen, still brandishing her spray like a badge of honor. Karen launched into a breathless recounting of her version of events. "Officers, he was aggressive, wearing that awful hat." The officer held up a hand, his face unreadable. "Ma'am, did you just pepper spray this man?" Karen hesitated, her bravado faltering. "For my safety," she finally said, raising her chin in defiance. The second officer crouched next to Greg, peering closer. His eyes widened with recognition. "Wait a second," he said, astonished. "General Williams?" Greg nodded, his expression grim yet composed. Retired, yes. Karen's face lost its color faster than an Instagram filter could brighten it. General? She croaked, her voice wobbling. As in, military? The senior officer's tone turned frigid, each word slicing through her bravado. General Williams served 3 tours overseas. He's a decorated war hero. And you attacked him? Over a hat? Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. I didn't know, she stammered, her confidence evaporating under the weight of the revelation. He didn't say... Greg straightened, brushing off his khakis, his piercing gaze locking onto hers. The calmness in his demeanor was gone, replaced by a quiet, formidable authority. Didn't know or didn't care? He asked, his voice steady and cutting like steel. You made a choice, ma'am. Now you live with it. The patio buzzed with whispers, a cacophony of disbelief and quiet judgment. Phones continued recording, their tiny lenses capturing every moment of Karen's unraveling. That's a general? Someone muttered, their voice thick with awe. Another whispered, she pepper-sprayed a war hero? Unreal. The officers exchanged a glance, their silent communication clear. The younger officer stepped forward, cuffs in hand. Ma'am, you're under arrest for assault, he said, his tone firm yet almost bored, as if this wasn't his first run-in with someone too confident for their own good. Karen gasped, recoiling as if the words themselves had slapped her. What? No, this isn't fair! He provoked me! She shrieked, her voice climbing into dog whistle territory. But her protests fell on deaf ears. The officers efficiently cuffed her, ignoring her flailing indignation. This is outrageous! You don't understand! The crowd didn't sympathize. As the officers led Karen toward the waiting squad car, the patio erupted into applause. A few patrons even whistled, one calling out, "Justice served!" Greg, now seated again with the help of a kind barista, chuckled quietly. His expression betrayed no malice, just a calm amusement at the poetic irony of the moment. Across the patio, someone muttered, "Internet's gonna love this." And they weren't wrong. Karen's downfall, now a digital spectacle, was immortalized before she even reached the station. By evening, Karen Lockhart's name was etched into the annals of internet infamy. Clips of the patio incident flooded social media under the hashtag Karen vs. The General, complete with commentary ranging from outrage to meme-worthy ridicule. Some videos added dramatic music, others inserted captions like, "When you mess with the wrong coffee drinker." By the time the sun set, her tirade had gone from local embarrassment to global spectacle. Karen's downfall was swift and merciless. Her employer issued a terse statement by mid-afternoon. "We do not condone violence or discrimination in any form. Ms. Lockhart's actions do not reflect our company's values. Effective immediately, she is no longer employed with us." The statement sparked a fresh wave of commentary online, some gleeful, some pitying, but nearly all unanimous in their disapproval of her actions. Meanwhile, Greg Williams became an unexpected folk hero. His calm demeanor and unflappable composure in the face of Karen's outrage earned him widespread admiration. A local news station scored an interview, broadcasting Greg's thoughtful reflections to a captivated audience. "We live in a time where people act first and think later," he said, his tone measured but firm. "We need to stop letting our differences breed hate. Disagreements shouldn't lead to violence." Clips of Greg's interview were shared far and wide, and his message resonated with many. Support poured in from veterans, coffee enthusiasts, and everyday folks alike. Some sent thank you notes to the coffee shop, while others posted selfies wearing hats, both MAGA and non-MAGA, as a show of unity. The cafe itself became a local landmark almost overnight. General Williams' table was officially named with a small plaque on the patio, turning the spot into a must-visit destination for curious patrons and Instagram influencers alike. The owners leaned into the publicity, creating a new menu item, the General's Blend, a strong black coffee with a hint of spice, for those who can handle the heat. As for Karen, her life unraveled in real time. Friends stopped returning her calls and neighbors whispered behind their curtains. Her once bustling social media accounts went dark. Every attempt she made to explain herself only fueled more memes, jokes, and public scrutiny. What began as her attempt to humiliate Greg ended with Karen's very public reckoning, and a lifetime lesson in choosing battles wisely.